So, welcome to Chiro Kings. I'm Dr. Matt Alexander, and I'm the host of our podcast here. I'm together here with our co-host.
Hello, everybody.
This is Dr. Chris Sancombe, and we have a very special guest today. This is Dr. Shawn Dill. Dr. Shawn Dill is a chiropractor, entrepreneur, speaker, and business coach known for helping service-based business professionals build thriving, scalable businesses. He's the creator of the Specific Chiropractic Centers, the Adaptable Entrepreneur, and serves as CEO of Book Yourself Solid. Through his work in marketing, sales, and mindset, Shawn has become a trusted mentor for entrepreneurs ready to elevate their income, impact, and position in the marketplace. That sound about right, Shawn?
Sounds about right. Yep.
So I wanted to just kick it off a little bit and give him a little history how I know Shawn. So I went to Life Chiropractic College West. I graduated in 2011, and Dr. Shawn Dill was my teacher, I think possibly in my first quarter of school or second. It was a philosophy class. First quarter, first class. So I go in there, and Shawn just starts saying all kinds of crazy stuff. And I don't know if you were supposed to teach business at all in that class, but you would give us nuggets in that class, which I personally loved. But I will say, even though I am a chiropractor, and my dad was a chiropractor, well, I'm a chiropractor now, but my dad was a chiropractor, so I grew up in a chiropractic family. It's not like we sat around the dinner table talking about chiropractic philosophy all the time. So a lot of the stuff that I learned from Shawn in the beginning was new to me, and some of it was somewhat controversial. So I would sit in class sometimes and be like, I don't know about all that. Like, I'd be like, I don't think this guy knows what he's talking about. But then he would start to like get into some business stuff, and I'd always be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd be like writing that down, you know? And so I actually still use some quotes that you said in class. And I don't know if they're ones you made up or that you got them from somebody else, but I still use them today as guiding principles for me in practice. So I want you to know that. One in particular, I'll tell you just for an example, is, if I'm quoting you correctly, you used to say, people have money for the things they really want.
Yes.
And I think that's something that I've actually think about regularly as I've set fees, decided what kind of clients I want to have in my practice, decided whether to take insurance or not, and different things throughout the years. That particular phrase has stuck with me. Did I quote you right? Is that from you?
Yeah. And I pride myself that I'm at least, to the best of my knowledge, I always give credit. I don't love when people steal my stuff, so I try not to steal other people's stuff. Sometimes I might not remember their names, but I will definitely say this was not me. And yeah, definitely people, that comes from me being in Costa Rica. If you travel to third world countries, I know in El Salvador, there's a Ferrari that you'll see driving around. I would see patients in Costa Rica that, you're a third world country and they have a $150,000 truck. Well, because they were farmers and they valued that. And, it would be hard to sell a $40 chiropractic adjustment, but not that hard to sell them a $150,000 truck. The people always have money for the things they really want. I also remember, he's now one of my big influences in speaking, Myron Golden. He's now incredibly popular now all over on social media. But when I did some speaker training with him, it was when he was right on the cusp of like kind of his come up. But Myron talked about how there's an inverse relationship between the number of televisions in somebody's house and how much money they make. And it kind of goes along those same things, right? Because people have money for 100-inch, 500-inch TVs in their house, but they don't have money to, invest in their business or what, all of these things. People always have money for what they value. And the trick, there's also a back end of that is if we could get people to value what it is that we have to offer, well, then money is not an issue. They'll come up with the money.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so a couple of things I want to hit today, Shawn, is I want to learn a little bit about, and I'm sure our listeners do as well. I want to learn about the Adaptable Entrepreneur. I want to talk about some money mechanics because I know you're kind of a guru with that. And then also, I know you got your stuff going on with Book Yourself Solid, so I want to hear about that and, just becoming the preeminent provider in your market. So do you feel like those are good topics for us to hit today?
Well, yeah, I recently just left Book Yourself Solid, but I mean, the concepts are great. Happy to talk about any Book Yourself Solid concepts that you want to discuss. Okay. I'm also very excited about our newest, I don't know if you have on there, my newest venture is called Well Infused. And I'd love to talk about what we're doing there and how that ties in with this whole mission of chiropractic.
Yeah, let's dial down the Book Yourself Solid just a smidge, because we were supposed to have you on. I don't know 4 months ago or 5 months ago, I think. And so I didn't get, I guess, the full update.
Yeah, now we have news breaking. We have a new venture that we get to explore.
Yeah. But just to give Book Yourself Solid your credit, you were talking about that when I was in school, and I read that 100%. When I was in school, and I liked that book, Michael Port, and you've done great stuff with that.
Yeah, the premier system for growing service-based providers businesses. And Michael was actually my very first business coach. I talk a lot about this concept where, when I hired Michael, I didn't even have the money to hire Michael, but I just felt like if I could get the money together to hire Michael, Michael would teach me how to get the money to pay him the next month. And then if I could get a little bit more than that, I would start to get ahead. I'd have a positive ROI. And, a lot of people are always kind of stunned when I tell them that. And then, I'm in the same business where I do realize I don't love it. I will tell you, I don't love it when I know it. But, I do understand people have to make a stretch even to hire me. And then it's on me to help them to build their business to produce the ROI, not only to pay me, but have a positive ROI. And as soon as I kind of had figured things out with Michael too, just shout out for anybody that's listening to the episode wondering where my influences come. Of course, the Premier System, Book Yourself Solid. And then after that, I did it again. I switched from Michael to Jay Abraham. Quite a big jump in what you have to pay Jay Abraham from what I was paying Michael. So I didn't have the money to pay Jay Abraham, but I got the money together to pay Jay because I knew that he would teach me how to recover the money that I had just given him. And so it kind of works along those lines, building your foundation of mentorship and coaching.
And have you found that to be true, that it happened? Did you make the money to pay them the next month? I guess I want to hear how the story unfolded.
40 times over. I mean,
okay.
1,000,000%. And I think, I'll just touch on that too. Maybe this will be useful for your listeners. I'm in the coaching and consulting business, and I always talk about there's a big difference between coaching and mentorship. In fact, I just did a little piece on this recently for our members at Adaptable Entrepreneur, because I see it get thrown around a lot like, well, Tiger Woods and LeBron James, they have coaches, so you should too. And I mean, of course, that kind of makes sense, but what I don't think that people really understand is the role that the coach plays. I mean, all of the great athletes are already gifted. So you could say well, they don't actually need a coach to make them better at what they do, but the coach calls the plays. The coach knows because they have situational knowledge and they are able to direct the actions. Because if you are just a great player without coaching, you will, have a couple, minor victories here and there, but it will be difficult to string together, for example, Tiger Woods' career, Michael Jordan's career, string together where these people are consistently winning. But one of the things about coaches is that very infrequently is the coach somebody that's done the thing. I mean, and you already said it. I think that all great coaching advice, in fact, all great life advice is counterintuitive. And so when you said earlier, some of the things that I said in the class were controversial, maybe what I would say is I don't know if they were controversial so much as they're counterintuitive. And all great advice is counterintuitive because your intuition is what's brought you here. So anything that we're going to do differently to take you to the next level, of course, by definition, is counterintuitive. And so I think one thing that's interesting and counterintuitive in chiropractic is that we always think that the person that's giving the coaches, because there's certain, or coaching, there's certain people that use this sort of phrase a lot, and that is in the trenches. That in order for somebody to help you with business, they need to be, quote, in the trenches alongside you. And that couldn't be further from the truth. My coaching influences, Michael Port, not a chiropractor. Jay Abraham, not a chiropractor. They don't need to be in the trenches. You know, you look at Phil, Michael's coach. What's his last name? Phil, gosh dang it, his name was running out of my head.
Phil Jackson?
Phil Jackson. Yeah,
Oh,
Phil
yeah,
Jackson. Yeah. Played with the Knicks, but not a superstar player, right? Bill Belichick with the Patriots. Yeah. What team did he play for, right? The greatest coaches, it's not because they were the greatest players. They have a different skill set. Now, the difference, though, is that the great players would make great mentors. Mentors have done the thing, but they don't necessarily have the skills to call the plays, but they've been there, done that, so they can tell you, look, I've been in that situation. I know what it feels like to play in a Super Bowl. I know how you're going to feel when the pressure's on. That's mentorship. In a perfect world, you want to look for coaching and mentorship in one spot. But in an imperfect world, I think that I would start with everybody just understanding you need coaching and mentorship. Because just to be great, a great chiropractor, a great entrepreneur, without somebody calling the plays, without somebody understanding the environment and helping you to react to your environment, I think that's a recipe for disaster. And you can still be great, and you may do okay, but you'll never be as great as you could have been if you had received proper coaching.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense because as a practicing chiropractor right now, the demands that are on my schedule to see patients and also run my company, which we're at 5 clinics now, is immense. So even though I probably do have the bandwidth to take on a couple coaching clients, I can't take on a full load of coaching clients with my schedule the way that it sits now. And, am I going to be a great coach if I'm not coaching all day long? If I'm, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be good at what you do all day long and what you work at to be good at, along with your natural talents, of course, too. So I definitely don't, I used to think that same thing as you. Yeah, all these coaches, they're not even practicing anymore, until I became a busy chiropractor myself and started to realize it's not really reasonable to be a full-time practicing chiropractor and a full-time practicing coach. Like, you're probably not giving either of them your best.
Which is why, in the past, back in the day, we used to see the concept of something called the player coach. They would play in the field and coach. Happened a lot in Major League Baseball, happened a lot in the NBA. You never see that anymore. Never.
Yeah, for sure.
for that reason.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because first of all, I love the name Adaptable Entrepreneur. One of the main concepts in chiropractic is being the ability to adapt, whether it be to stressors in your environment or situations or what have you. And I wanted to ask you how you feel like today's marketplace is different for chiropractors. What are their challenges? Where can we navigate these differences in how the industry is going, and how do we become successful?
First of all, I love that you mentioned that, and I just want to hammer that home. My company used to be called the Black Diamond Club. And in the year 2000, COVID changed a lot for a lot of businesses. And I've always understood and always taught that the only way, I believe, my belief system is the only way that we get sick as human beings is when our bodies fail to adapt to its environment, either internal or external. But I've also long held that as human beings, we are basically in chiropractic, right? Our default setting is health. And then we do things that interfere with that. But I also believe that our default setting is success and abundance and overflow. And then we do things to interfere with that. We have screwed up thinking, we receive weird advice. But basically, the mechanism that leads to that is a failure to adapt. And so I rebranded to the Adaptable Entrepreneur because I honestly believe that the only challenge is, the only way your business gets sick is when your business fails to adapt to its environment, either internal or external. So there's external environment, the market, consumer, the economy, politics, who's the president, etc. And there's the internal environment, your team, what's going on internally, your business model, all of those things. And so, the question is interesting, but I feel like basically in today's world, that adaptability is the new commodity. And that really your business success is predicated on your speed to adapt to things. This is crazy because, you guys are not old, but you're old enough that if you don't adapt, that we could run your business into problems, 5 clinics. We could have those 5 clinics in big problems in 365 days because of a failure to adapt. Now, that didn't happen so much. Like, take your father, for example. You could not adapt for long periods of time because the adaptations and the changes came much slower. In today's world, it's very clear that the king of the jungle is not the biggest, but actually the fastest. If you can track down the big prey quickly, you can eat forever. But if you are the big, slow elephant, well, no good. You're going to get eaten, right, by the cheetah. And so what are some things? First of all, the economy is constantly changing. And so we have to be cognizant of that. Our business model needs to be adaptable to, the giant swings. And again, got kicked off by COVID. Things look really good. Then things look really bleak. Now things look like they're coming back, but are they really coming back? So we have, that to deal with. We have, of course, AI. And, should we be using AI? How should we be using AI? Can AI replace my front desk? What about on, marketing? All of these things, like AI is a tremendous tool that needs to be adapted to and used effectively and efficiently. And then I just think just marketing in and of itself changes consistently and constantly. The algorithm, Instagram just released some new updates on how they were prioritizing, content. How much content should I be putting out? How should I be putting it out? What's the format? How do I convert my content, monetize my content? Should I just be doing these, chiropractor crack videos? How does that get me new patients? All of that. And then lastly, sales. I think that we're dealing with a very sophisticated market. One of the things that, again, I will say is very counterintuitive that I like to talk about, but I think that the old school, if I were to look at most chiropractors that are still utilizing this sort of elongated process where I come in, I get an exam, I come back tomorrow, I get a report. That's so ancient and foreign to normal people. There's nowhere else. Like, give me another example where I go to some sort of thing and it's just like drawn out thing. And that got
Timeshare.
Oh, timeshare. And who loves to sign up for timeshare? Which is a really good example, Matt, because then it's like, dude, do you want to be in that category? Like, oh, I got to go to the chiropractor. Maybe I want a TV, or maybe I got to join a 6-year care program.
Not with Yelp and Google getting me blasted afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think those are huge adaptations that we need to make. In that, one thing I was going to say is speed to transaction. COVID eliminated friction to transaction. One of the things that's interesting in the healthcare space, even my parents who are 89 and 87 years old, they know how to use this medium. They know how to do a teleconsult. And so, the necessity to eliminate the friction of transaction was over fear of this virus. But what it did is it eliminated the friction to transaction. And unfortunately, a lot of chiropractors haven't adapted to that. And they're still utilizing this, 2-step dance. And by the time I actually sit down with you and figure out what it is I need, I've already been exposed to so much information on the internet. Like, they're just beating us to the punch. And maybe if you ask me, how that cycle works, I can totally break it down and show you why we lose that game with the allopaths.
We could probably do a whole podcast just on that if we wanted, but I don't know if time would permit for the full breakdown or not. How would people get in contact with you if they wanted you to coach them through that? Like, what's the
easiest way is just to send me an email, Shawn, SHAWN, at adaptapreneur.com, Shawn at adaptapreneur.com. You can also visit that same website, adaptapreneur.com. One thing that I noticed in my career is that all successful people are responsive, so I attempt to be very responsive. So just, the best way is just shoot me an email. Let me know what your questions are, and I'll be happy to answer.
Love that. How long, Shawn, because I never really knew, by the time I met you, you were already, I think, in the coaching space and had like 10 clinics or something like that. So how long did you practice as a chiropractor before you started getting into the coaching and stuff?
I graduated in 1995. When did you graduate?
2011. So I probably had you in 2008 or
Well, that would have
9.
been in 2011 when your clinic was located above us on the second floor there. I was still doing some practicing there.
Well, I wasn't there until 2013.
Okay, so 2013.
Yeah.
That sounds a little. Just full disclosure, I am terrible with time. If you told me that it was 2002, I would have believed it.
Okay.
But around then, 2013 is when I would have stopped practicing, like full time. Just stopped practicing. It was probably in that range. 2012, 2013 is when that would have occurred.
So what does the specific look like now? Because that's the name of your clinics, right?
Yeah, we're still at the same. It's a franchise, 10 clinics. We're now in a phase of opening. We had a little bit of our growing pains, in a franchise concept. Plus, we do exclusively knee, chest, upper cervical, cash only. So our growing pain was finding and recruiting the chiropractors that would be able to come in to deliver that. Not knocking it. I'm just saying, in contrast to, for example, the joint, anybody could practice at the joint, right? And so because of the technique limitations, we had to kind of retool sort of the recruitment process. And we're in 2026 going to be back into aggressively opening up more clinics.
I'm going to ask you a selfish question, if you're open to it. A guy like me who's got 5 clinics, they're doing good. They're doing well. Still need refinement. Still constantly improving. How do I get to the next phase? The 8, 10, 15 clinics. What are the next things I need to be looking at as I scale from 5 upwards?
I love that question. I actually do have a handful of clients that's literally where they are, where they're trying to kind of break through. And I noticed that. There are some, and I think statistically, anecdotally, from other conversations I've had, there are these sort of natural sort of sticking points, probably around 5 to 7, then again around 11 to 13, some natural sticking points. It gets hard to get past that 5 to 7. And then once you do, it kind of grows. And then you're like 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there, it gets stuck again. And literally it's this. What brought you from 1 clinic to 5 clinics will not take you from 5 clinics to 10. And what it is it's, and that's easy to say, like, oh, yeah. But it's really hard to say, okay, so now that I'm at 5 and you realize, like, I feel like I might be, maybe 6 is your sticking point. So if you're like, oh, I could easily open 6, but 7 is where it gets a little bit complicated. But whenever you reach that point, you have to have a realization that I'm just going to scrap everything. Like literally, like everything that we were doing that got us here, we're not doing that going forward. There is a big difference between growth and scale. And so you may have grown your first clinic and then entered into a minor in scale but then grew from 1 to 5. And then, right, so then scale is different. Scale operates and functions differently than growth. And it has a lot of sort of these cliche things like the delegation, the systems and processes. But it really is an understanding of kind of revamping the whole thing, including, for example, the way that we pay our help. That's one major thing that shifts. One of the things that I'll say is Dan Kennedy says that he or she who controls the marketing controls the revenue. And I'll tell you that that's probably the biggest key to, and as an answer to what you're asking is the question would be, Matt, do you have absolute control over the marketing? And oftentimes what I hear is like, well, I outsource, I use this agency. Well, that's interesting because now the agency controls the revenue, right? Yeah. Like it's all about, I think that move is I'm bringing it all in-house and I have absolute control over the marketing, which means that I can dial up or dial down the revenue at my beck and call, which means that my associate doctors are not being asked to go out and grow a clinic because I'm not using them as a growth strategy. I'm using them as a scale strategy. They're coming in and I have control of the marketing. I'm feeding them. And that doesn't mean that they're just technicians and, cracking people's backs. They can have other KPIs like conversions, like retentions and referrals. But what it does mean is I'm not asking them to go out onto the street and hustle. Now, that could work with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clinics. But At 10 clinics, I have an army of people out on the street hustling, and how am I really supporting that? At 10 clinics, I need to have absolute control over the marketing, where I'm just pushing the clients into them. They're servicing the clients with those different back-end KPIs. I think that marketing is really big. And then I think also training is really big. How am I training at scale? I mentioned earlier this concept called Well Infused. It's a new franchise concept. We've already, during this year, have sold 10 new units. We've already opened up 3 this year. The 4th one's coming online in the Houston area. And as we build and scale that out, we realize that the training component gets harder and harder and harder, especially because we're dealing with professional training, clinical training. So the same thing would apply for you. Exact same thing, because I have a clinical side and then I have a business side. And to juggle those things at scale is increasingly difficult versus if we were just trying to scale hamburgers. To teach you how to put the hamburger on the grill and flip it, that's quite easy. I can just write that down and document it. But in your case, in chiropractic offices, well, now we have a professional license. We have a degree of artistry on the line. We still need to have a degree of control inside that realm. And so that then is what brings about those challenges. And I think, your ability to overcome those while controlling the marketing is what unleashes that ability to go, to 20, 50 and beyond.
That was awesome.
Yes.
That was exactly.
Someone clip that one for me?
That
Thank
was
you.
exactly what I needed to hear.
Awesome. Let's do more selfish questions.
That was pretty money right there. That's taking me back to 2009 here, whenever 2008. I love it. Okay, so let's talk. What time do we got? We got
30 minutes.
Let's talk a little money mechanics. What do you got? What do you have to say about that, Dr. Dill? What can you?
Well,
we talked about that a little bit, but
well, this is all. Again, very influenced by Myron Golden. Money is an interesting thing that we need to be able to wrap our minds around. And COVID, I think, really taught us a lot of really big lessons, because I think that there was a widely held belief that money was a thing, and we're trying to accumulate this thing. And people say, again, pretty cliche, that money is energy. But COVID proved it, right? Because, also too, by the way, I think you will like this, money is a highly spiritual concept because of several factors. First of all, in the spiritual realm, it requires belief that it exists. Because for a long time, we thought that there was gold backing it, and then we had, dollars and coins. Now we're eliminating the penny. So where are the pennies going? We're not going to have pennies anymore. It doesn't mean that we're always going to round every transaction up to a 5 or a 0. It just means that we're not going to have the penny anymore. So first of all, I would begin by asking the two of you, where is your money right now? Yeah, there you go. So that's spiritual. This is total belief based. You don't have any real objective evidence that this even exists. I mean, you look on your phone, right? And you look at the app and there's a number there, but you can't really get it. I don't know if you've tried to go to the bank and withdraw 6 figures. They will tell you no.
Yeah, even like $25K. Like I wanted to go buy a car in cash, and I went and I was like, I'll just go down there and Wells Fargo, and they'll give me $25K. And they were like, we can't give that to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't have. There's a giant safe right behind there. Aren't there stacks of money in there? Like I was like little bags with money signs on them. Like, go back there and get my $25K. And they were like, no, we have to have that delivered, and you got to come back tomorrow and get it. And I was like, what? All right.
Yeah, crazy. The other thing that's makes it spiritual is that in the spiritual realm is the only realm in which something can exist in multiple places at the same time. When we talk about the spiritual realm, if you were to I'm not having a spiritual discussion, but if I were to say, where is God? And you would say, everywhere. Like, well, everywhere? God can't be in California and in Florida. Of course God can't. Well, where is your money? And you're like, well, that's, first of all, spiritual because you have no objective proof that exists. But secondly, you also believe and actually understand that it's actually everywhere. Your money is in your phone. Your money is in your wallet, in your credit card. Your money is in your laptop, in your computer. It's in the bank. It's in the ATM. The money is everywhere. And in fact, it's being transacted right now, right in front of your face. Like You could Venmo each other, and the money just whizzes through the air. And so money's not real. It's so clear. It's not real. It's this fictitious, measuring stick. And even, a lot of people got really behind the cryptocurrency tip. And even that, like, how real is that? Like, where is it? Like, what? It's on my flash drive. Well, what does that mean? And so, again, that was just a modernization and a rewriting of the rules of how the money would work. But it doesn't matter how we break it down. It's no longer real. So now, if we could understand that, it just flows energetically. And one of the other elements is that money loves to flow. So we have to allow it to flow. We have to be able to release money in order to receive money. We have to become, rather than business men and women who are trying to generate an income, generate revenue, we must learn how to attract revenue. We become attractors to the energy. The energy just comes to us. And it comes to us, the attraction is based in accordance to the value that we're providing the world. Not to an individual, but to a world. Listen, I got to tell you, maybe at some point you guys have even had a conversation or a thought of like, man, when are we going to monetize this podcast? Like, we're just, we're taking our time and we're doing this, but we're not being paid for it. I mean, that's my guess. But if you're at this point where you're thinking that, you also have to have the understanding of like, but wait a minute, that's faulty thinking, because we are being paid for it. Because we have our multiple clinics, we have our businesses, and we receive money. So the other part of it is, and I think this is super important, is that in all things in life, the give and take, you have to put the give first, but it's not through the same channels. In other words, I'll give you a couple of examples. First of all, I want people to realize how resistant we are to money. For example, let's say the three of us go out. I come back in the Bay Area and I'm like, man, I just want to go down into the city. Let's go to, one of those nice restaurants. I think Aviary closed. But we go to a nice restaurant. We eat really well. The bill comes and I say to you guys, I got it. What do you say to me?
I say, most people would say, no, Shawn, I got it. You're our guest. Let me get it for you.
Right. And this look right there, how that is a rejection, right? Of maybe the universe, maybe universally, the universe is like, listen, because these two guys have been putting on this podcast, providing so much value for their listeners, I'm going to send Shawn into their world and I'm going to have Shawn buy them a very nice meal. But then instead you reject it. No, I don't want it. This lesson became very evident to me walking down the streets of Boston one time with a very close friend of mine, and we saw a penny lying on the ground. And I said to him, oh, look, it's a penny. And he said to me, it's just a penny, and walked on. And I was walking side by side with him, but I got up and then I turned around and I went and got the penny, because I thought, well, if the universe is sending me a penny and I reject it, then it's not going to send me dimes, quarters, dollars, $100 bills. And I think that's another one. Like we oftentimes see signs of abundance and then we reject them. People want to buy us something. We reject it. People offer us something. We reject it because we're not as open to receiving as we would like to say we are amongst entrepreneur friends. But then when it's put to the test, we're, oh, no. We don't like receiving gifts. We feel weird. We don't like being elevated, all of that type of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, we need to be more open to it so that it can flow.
Well, and I definitely see this, obviously, the spiritual connection there. Growing up Mormon and having a lot of, Sunday school lessons and whatnot, and I'm sure other religions can agree with this as well. Is like if you feel like you were inspired, through God or Holy Spirit or whatever you want to call it, to do something, and then you don't act upon it, will you become now less sensitive to that? You know what I mean? Or less, or you're not going to get that inspiration again because you didn't act upon it. And that was something that was taught in Sunday school. And so I can definitely see that. That's a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah,
so.
Dr. Dill, if you take me to dinner, I'll just say thank you.
Yeah, that's the answer, right? That's what we're supposed to say. And I just think too, I think that the next thing, like, hey man, thanks. And I think that we need to think like, listen, maybe like, where is this actually coming from? What is the source of this? Because it could be that I came and I paid the meal, but it was because you guys have been putting out so much value on the podcast. And when you can realize that then then it gives you more inspiration, gives you more energy to do your podcast. But listen, it happens like individually too. Like maybe, for example, I've seen this where maybe you guys go out to have lunch and Matt buys. And now you are thinking, now I have to buy the next time. And so maybe the next time comes and Matt's like, let me buy lunch. And you are thinking, but I've also seen it where Matt then is like, dude, when's Chris going to buy lunch, man? Like what's going, and so my whole point is, listen,
has he been going to lunch with that?
It doesn't work like that. Matt's buying the lunches somewhere. Somebody's giving Matt stuff, right? Like, and I get stuff that comes in the mail. People send me stuff. I got these amazing wood cups from my good friend Jack Borlett, president at Sherman, sent me these cups today. And I took these cups out and I was like, wow, these are really cool. But then I think like, well, I don't owe Jack. This is a rebalancing because of something that I'm doing out there in the world. And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for that. It may be a client, it may be a patient that you are seeing that can't afford the care. And you're like, that's okay. I'm going to see you anyways. And then all of a sudden you get these cups in the mail and you need to understand, like, got it. It just all came back into balance. All right. But I'm not going to spend my whole life holding it like that guy never paid me back. I get it, but the universe did.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's actually good marriage advice too. Because be seriously, when my sister was married, I remember the guy who performed the marriage gave some words of advice, and he said, "Don't keep score with your spouse. She did this and I did this," and I go, It's not a happy way to live, keeping track all the time. So what that you died and someone you did a little more for them than they did for you? You know what I mean? Like, is that the worst thing?
Worst thing that happened, yeah.
So that's some pretty good advice there, Doc. Let's see, what else should we get hit here?
I mean, the last one would be becoming a preeminent provider in your market. I don't know if we can touch on that for a few minutes before we wrap this thing up.
Well, I think that one was related to Book Yourself Solid. I don't know if you want to hit that or if that.
No.
Oh, yeah, we didn't get the new venture.
We can talk about that. But preeminence, first of all, is a Jay Abraham concept.
So, okay. And I don't know Jay Abraham. So can you,
my gosh! I mean,
can you enlighten me?
Yeah, you need Jay Abraham is the old school business coach, business guru. He is the coach to people like Tony Robbins, Damon John, Dave Asprey, all of these entrepreneurs that are looked up to. He really was instrumental in building their business model. If you're a member of Tony's Platinum Partners, Jay comes out for Plat and teaches all of the business stuff. If you're taking any of Tony's business mastery stuff, it's all Jay's. I don't think that Tony would deny it. I mean, because Tony's an information curator. Jay is the OG behind all of these things. Ben Gay, he did a lot of these big companies he helped launch. And so he talks about preeminence, which is becoming your community's most trusted advisor. And the biggest thing the reason why this applies so much to chiropractors is because chiropractors want to only be the most trusted advisor in things related to the spine and or the nervous system. Being preeminent means that when Matt says that Gino's Pizza is the best, that his community listens to that. That they're like, well, that's interesting. If Matt likes it, okay. If Chris says that you need to drink hydrogen water, then they drink hydrogen water. They're like, well, I didn't know about hydrogen water, but if he says that's what it is, becoming preeminent is critical. And maybe I'll add right here what the allopathic medicine does, because they are preeminent. And they actually have a very interesting, I will tell you why as chiropractic we do not stake a claim to our market share, and why we probably never will. And it has to do with their understanding of the way that preeminence works. And so, I mean, and Matt, this could be for you to take as some personal advice in your methodology to scale. But today, thousands, no matter when you're listening to this, thousands of individuals will have their very first migraine that they've ever had in their life. And when they have their very first migraine, they're going to turn to free information that they will access over the internet, AKA WebMD, They'll look at some of these other, UCLA Health. They'll access free information. And I encourage you to look at the information that they're going to access, because first of all, the information is going to help them to identify what's going on, right? Like, well, if the thing started in your eye and then it got kind of fuzzy, and then you may be having a migraine. And they're like, holy smokes, I'm having a migraine. But then the next interesting thing is that it will say, well, if this is your first migraine, you may want to try an over-the-counter analgesic. Now, I want you to understand that in the allopathic world, they want to put them on super drugs, the Imitrexes and above. They want to get them on big drugs, but those drugs by dose are extremely expensive. So here's what they know. We don't have enough trust and credibility to start putting people on $500 plus per dose medicine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them down to Walgreens and have them buy Excedrin migraine. Now, that'll only set them back. I have no idea what that costs, which also is a really important lesson. By the way, the other day they asked Bill Gates how much does a banana cost, and he guessed $20 for a banana, which also means that if we were to ask everybody in your community how much does a chiropractic adjustment cost, nobody has any idea, right? So this whole fear around how much you're charging, that's nonsense. If you knew Bill Gates, you could charge him $20 for a banana. He'd think it was reasonable, right? So people have no idea how much things cost. But they go, I'm going to guess a thing of Excedrin costs $10, so they try it. Here's what's very important. The allopathic world knows full well that is not going to work. That's the important thing. So now they take their Excedrin migraine. I mean, it kind of works. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't hurt as bad. But then they're still having migraines, so what do? This psychology is very important. They don't go to a chiropractor. They go back to the source of free information on the internet, back to the same source that led them astray. And that information, you've got to look at this, says if you've tried something like over-the-counter medicine and your symptoms persist, then you should see a physician, a GP. Not a neurologist, not the place where they're going to get prescribed the $500 per dose medicine. Go to a GP. So they go to a GP and they're like, I think I have a migraine. And the GP's like, why do you think that? And they're like, well, the eye, the thing. And they're like, well, yeah, it sounds like you do have a migraine. Now the GP knows that what I want you to do is I want you to get on $500 a dose Imitrex, but I'm not going to do that too soon. So I'm going to put you on some stronger pain relievers and muscle relaxers. Let's see how that goes. They write the script. The person goes, they fill the script, and it kind of works. But I need you to understand they know full well this is not going to work long term. And so then eventually it comes back, and what do? They go back to the GP. They don't go to the chiropractor. They go back to the GP, and they're like, yeah, that thing kind of worked, but now it doesn't work as well. And the GP now says, oh, man, I was afraid of that. What we're going to have to do is I'm going to refer you to a neurologist so we can do more tests. You might have like chronic migraines, and they arrive at the neurologist, they do the test, and the neurologist tells them like, yeah, you've got a really bad case of the migraines. We need to put you on Imitrex. That's the journey. People talk about the patient journey. That's the patient journey. Here's what the thing is. The allopathic medical world has so much preeminence that they control every element of the journey since the jump. From the start, chiropractors only come in at some point and at the very end. And in fact, chiropractors refuse to do anything to control the journey in the beginning part. This journey happens for every condition known to man. Because if you have low back pain because you were doing deadlifts at the gym, the allopathic world wants you to get surgery. That's the end point, but they don't start you there. They start you with, some exercises, some stretches. Let's try massage. Let's try analgesics. Let's up it. Let's go to pain relievers. That's why physical therapy fits in so well, because they're just a part of the journey. And so the question becomes for chiropractors, do you just want to be a part of the journey? Or do you want to control the journey? Do you want to compete? And actually, because we operate in a different paradigm, that would require for us to become preeminent. That means that we have to become advisors, the most trusted advisor that people trust, that we would tell them the truth. Now, here's the good news, and I'll segue, Chris, into what we're doing with Well Infused. The world is beginning to become more and more skeptical of this process. And they believe in things like peptides and Brian Johnson and not losing your hair and hydrogen water, whatever it is they're doing. And I don't even know for myself if all of that stuff is good, but they believe in it. Look at your social media feeds. Look at how much stuff people are into. And listen, I served on the board of trustees at Sherman College of Chiropractic for 8 years. When we talk about the specific chiropractic centers, we're talking about straight chiropractic, knee, chest, upper cervical, no insurance, nothing else. I mean, these guys aren't adjusting a C3. let alone putting someone on a table and cracking a rib nothing else. Strict, straight chiropractic. However, here's what I also know. You will see us talking about these other things. And what I figured out, my passion, my only desire in life is to build a platform big enough so that one day I will have that level of preeminence that I'll be able to just on a dime say, dude, I don't know why everybody's not getting chiropractic care. And to have the impact. That's why my best friend is David Meltzer. That's why I've been on Jordan Belfort's podcast. That's why I've been to Patrick Bet-David's house and sat with him in on the backyard next to Lionel Messi's house and had philosophical discussions about these type of things. By the way, PBD is a big fan of chiropractic not because I'm name dropping, but because they have bigger platforms than me. And so I wanted to have the relationships in order to expand the reach, because all I really care about is chiropractic and telling that chiropractic message. I know that, and by you having me on this program, I know that I am radically misunderstood about what I'm doing, but I know that the people that are closest to me know that is exactly what I'm doing. So our newest venture, Well Infused stem cells, which I believe are an absolute incredible breakthrough for longevity. I'm not sure how smart of an idea living forever is. The idea or the concept is that we're probably 6 to 7 years away from that terminal point of being able to sustain life. By definition, forever. Still could get hit by a bus. This creates all kinds of ethical, legal issues around the world. If people can live longer than, let's even say, 90 and 100, if we start to outlive that, we're going to have population issues, all kinds of problems. Peptides, lab work, supplements. Why? Because that's all in vogue. And here's the thing. I can and I'll give you this. You guys can get ahead of this before you release the podcast episode. Every single thing that I mentioned and every single thing that's mentioned on social media, the fads in the longevity space and the health and wellness space, none of it works if you don't have a healthy nervous system. Whichever chiropractor can go out there and establish the positioning of, listen, I get that you're cold plunging, but cold plunging could be dangerous if your nervous system has interference. I get that you like red light, but red light won't work if you have nervous system interference. I get that you're injecting yourself with peptides, but what's the point of it? You're just injecting yourself with thousands of dollars of nonsense if your body doesn't know how to assimilate it and regulate. Guess what controls that? Your nervous system. Like every fad out there, nervous system dependent, even stem cells. And so whoever can really start to position the nervous system in that realm, I think is going to win. And that is preeminence. I also will say, and I'm not going to drop any names, but all of the leaders in health and wellness, all of them, the most influential, preeminent people in health and wellness, none of them have degrees. That's crazy. These are just normal Joes there's one who has a PhD in research, but then that's not what he talks about. He talks about, health and wellness. And so, but the other ones that everybody's listening to, for the most part, these guys don't, the biggest ones. So I'm not saying all of them. You're like, well, what about this guy? He's a chiropractor. Yeah, but the biggest ones, they don't have degrees. And so I also think there's an opportunity for you, listeners, because you do have degrees and you can position yourself in a place of authority easier than them. The only thing is you're just not willing to do it. They're just out contenting you. They're just putting more content out at a more prolific pace that is attractive to the algorithm, that's being picked up and spun around to everybody and positions them as authoritative. And that's how they sell hydrogen bottles and salt. Salt. And listen, one of those guys' entire platform is just based off of things that are natural. Like, are you kidding me? The platform is cold, oxygen, and salt. It's like, dude, like that existed way before. Like, what are we talking about here? Somebody that really gets a hold of this and understands this can really position themselves as preeminent. And then I'll just add my sprinkle of salt in there, and relationships. You have to build the relationships with the people that actually drive, because there is the algorithm, which is AI, but then there's the people component, the relationships, the endorsement, the part that kind of drives that engine. When I saw, recently that the air and the salt guy get named to, the White House Council on Health alongside RFK Jr., I'm like, so now we have two non-degreed people basically being recognized as the highest authorities in health and wellness for the United States of America. How did that happen? Well, social media, preeminence.
Bill Gates in there too.
They throw Bill Gates in. At least we throw in a token like Dr. Oz. He has a real degree. But I mean, most of those people running that have nothing
Yeah.
to do with
Yeah, Huberman's the PhD, right? Is that what you're talking about? We're not dropping names.
Yeah, Dr. Dill, are you going to go to the Vault PPD's business? Have you heard about this? The
Yeah,
Vault.
I've heard of it. I've never been. I've had friends that have gone, and I hear really good things. Is he doing it at Mar-a-Lago again?
I'm not sure where he's doing it. I know it's out near you in Florida. It's
Yeah,
always
it's
something
across,
I was
it's across
interested
in
in.
Palm Beach. Patrick lives in Fort Lauderdale. His office, Valuetainment offices, are there in Fort Lauderdale as well. And if anybody ever has an opportunity to go by and see them, they're incredible. I actually just saw, if you look on my Instagram, I don't know, right now, time of filming, I was just with Patrick at Mar-a-Lago. You can see that on my Instagram on
That's pretty cool.
Veterans Day. On Veterans Day. And
Nice.
it's a great event there.
Very good.
Dude, this was awesome.
Love it.
Better-
It was.
I knew you were
awesome.
gonna do
enjoyed
good.
it.
I knew you were gonna do good, but it was better than I hoped for. So thank you.
great.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dill.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
pleasure.
Hopefully we stay in touch. You know?
Absolutely. Please stay in touch. You got my contact info. Love to keep up with what you guys are doing, what you guys are brewing, and if I can support you or any of your listeners in any way, I mean, that's what I'm here for. I love, to have a hand in anything chiropractic. I'm off the board at Sherman, but I do some work still with Sherman, and I do a ton of work with the Scotland Chiropractic College. That's sort of my passion project. Real close. We're real close to seeing that get done. And so, yeah, I love all things chiropractic.
Awesome. Hey, by the way, I'm following your footsteps a little bit. I'm teaching at Life a little bit now.
Oh, congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Just like one day a week, go in and teach a little bit of technique. And
Well, we have a brand new franchise, since I mentioned that we were growing. It's opening up out in Lafayette. And so I'll get you in contact with him. The doc's name is Chris Brown.
Okay.
You guys connected because we're huge on collaboration and doing things in the community, because once you're preeminent, it doesn't matter. The competition's not other chiropractors. The competition's everyone else competing for their dollars, like the hairstylist, the movie theater, the restaurants. We're all competing for that dollar. People aren't like, well, am I going to go to Chris or am I going to go to Matt? That's not real competition. They've already picked Matt or they already picked Chris. I always say this: people pick their service providers before they need them. So they've already chosen you because they see you in the community, and they know they would say things like, if I ever needed a chiropractor, I'd come see you.
Right.
Then that means it's already pre-chosen. So what's the point? Like, you're not competing with each other. It's already done. Decision's already made. So I want to make that introduction. So I'd love to get Chris plugged in with you guys.
That'd
Sounds
be
like
awesome.
a plan.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Don't forget to leave your browser on. So
I
we
will.
can
I got you.
Get that downloaded.
I
All
got
right.
you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Appreciate
Have
you.
a great day, guys.